We've just met with the Springhill families. I don't know if you've seen this pamphlet that they've produced, but it's very good. It sets out the background and what happened to their loved ones. 5 deaths. And as you know, they were awaiting the inquest to happen next year. And now, like all of the other families that we've been talking to since the British government set out its proposals for amnesty, these families are distraught and frankly very, very angry at any suggestion that 49 years later, going into 50 years later, that they would be still left with no answers, and that the British government, that Boris Johnson in particular, but also Brandon Lewis, would be so brazen as to suggest that there couldn't be not alone criminal investigations, any civil actions or indeed inquests. It's absolutely outrageous.
What the British government are doing here is very clear for all to see. It's about covering up what they did here in Ireland. It's about covering up what they did to Irish citizens, and it goes right to the highest echelons of political life in Whitehall around who directed state collusion, who directed shoot to kill, who directed the British soldiers in the streets here and British forces in the streets here over many, many decades, and that's what they're trying to cover up.
The families in particular want a very strong pushback, and that is what the British government will get. So if they are intent on an amnesty, they need to be on guard, because there will be and there is a fight back against this, because it's wrong. It's wrong. They know it's wrong, but such is their determination to cover their tracks, as Michelle has said, here in Ireland. But Brandon Lewis is well aware that Sinn Féin won't facilitate and Sinn Féin won't give him cover for his amnesty proposal. We reject it outright and emphatically.
Hi Betty, can you explain for us what happened in Belfast on July 9, 1972?
Yeah, on July 9th, 1972, in Springhill Westrock, the British Armed Forces got up on Curry's timber yard wall and decided to shoot 5 innocent people dead. The first one was Margaret Gargan, aged 13. She was sitting with her friends on a wall chatting and got shot in the head and got killed instantly. The second was John Dougal. He went to assist people that had been shot in a car, and they survived their injuries, but he got shot in the back along with Martin Dudley, who got shot in the head and suffered brain damage. John Dougal unfortunately died of his injuries. The third, fourth and fifth people were Father Fitzpatrick, Mr. Butler and David McCafferty. They went to assist the people that were already shot, and the British Armed Forces opened fire on them and decided to shoot all 3 of them while they were attending the injured. All 5 people died of their injuries. There was no survivors except for the ones that were shot in the car, and Martin Dudley, who ended up with brain damage and is now in a wheelchair.
Now you have a personal connection to that very sad day, Betty, in that you lost your brother. Tell us about David.
David was 15. He was a very placid person. He was very well liked by everyone. He helped Mother Teresa and the nuns that came to Ballymurphy to help us during the troubles, during the struggles with the armed forces. He was a naturalist. He was constantly up the mountain. He was at the Rock Dam. He helped the farmer on the mountain. He helped a lady on his way to school every day with her garden, would stop and be late for school because he wanted to help her with her plants. Him and Ger Kelly and Sammy Kelly created a disco in Springhill for the youth. They painted it and had that up and running. He was 15 and he was very, very well liked by everyone. He had friends of all ages. There was no discrimination. He was just very kind-hearted and a very sweet, nice person.
And Betty, you were actually in Belfast on the day. What are your recollections?
I remember the people coming to the door to tell my ma and dad that David had been shot. There was, I think, 3 people at the door. I seen 2 of them. I don't remember the third one. I believe that they didn't know that he was dead at the time. They told my mum that he had been shot with Father Fitzpatrick and Mr. Butler trying to aid other people that were already killed. At first we didn't know, so we didn't realize what was going on, and then eventually the truth came that David had died. We're unsure whether he died instantly, but he was shot more than 8 times in the chest. He had locked his arm onto Father Fitzpatrick when he went to try and pull his body back to safety, and he was shot. He couldn't let go, and then he was shot again and again, so his body was propelled back against a van that was parked, and according to eyewitnesses, his body didn't fall until the shooting stopped. I remember his wake. I remember being constantly looking at him, thinking he was going to come back, because I was 7 when he died, and I remember at one point thinking that he was alive because his chest was going up and down, but then I found out that by my sister, that she removed me from the living room where his body was, that he wasn't breathing as I thought, that his chest was so packed out because of his injuries that it had collapsed, and I thought he was breathing. It was horrific, and my family has never ever got over the death of my brother because there was never any closure. He was deemed an IRA terrorist immediately, along with the rest of the people that were shot that day, including a priest. And from then, my mom and dad were fighting for truth and justice.
Now, recently the families of the deceased have organized themselves to seek truth and justice for their loved ones. Tell us about the committee and its demands.
The committee, realistically, they have never stopped fighting. They were fighting from day one, but what happened was in February 2019, we relaunched the campaign just for social awareness, and it worked because we got a lot of support. But since 1972, the families have consistently fought for truth and justice. That we never got a proper inquest. There was, we were told they were IRA terrorists, is what was stated in the papers the next day, and there's never been closure, and the truth has never come out about how 5 people were murdered.
Are you looking for inquests?
We're looking for inquests, proper inquests into their deaths, as none of them were armed, and the British Army denied that there was ever a priest there. There was 3 children that were murdered that day, a father of 6 and a Catholic priest. So there was never closure on their deaths. There was never a proper inquest about what happened. There was no violence, there was no rioting, there was nothing going on in Ballymurphy or Springhill when that happened. It was a random act from the British Armed Forces.
How can those of us living in Canada help your committee?
By just promoting us on Facebook, by going to our Facebook page, sharing our information. The more exposure we get, the better. The more publicity we get, the better. We're here just to create awareness. We just want people to know what happened, and we just want support.
Thank you, Betty.
You're welcome.